So the live stream is going.
Yep. Start. Yeah. Yeah. Good morning. I'd like to call this Tuesday, December 3rd, Finance Committee meeting to order. And we will begin by opening with our territorial acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to be living and working here in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded, unsurrendered land of the Mi'kmaq people. We honor and uphold the treaties of peace and friendship, and we would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present, as we continue to work toward reconciliation in our daily lives. We choose to share this statement before our meeting to affirm our commitment to learning and growing with our community, and we invite those in attendance to join with us in that journey. We will now proceed with nominations and election by ballot for the chair. So I'd ask everyone should have slips in front of them to vote for the chair. And our clerk, April Wynot-Lonis, has the ballot box, which she will show is empty to start.
So right now we're looking for nominations.
For the chair.
Nominations.
Nominations for the chair, right.
Those nominated for chair are Councillor Hubley, Councillor DeLong, Councillor Oikel, Councillor Burns, and that is it. So on the nominations are Councillors Oikel, Councillor Hubley, DeLong, and Burns.
So generally, we prefer to have folks in attendance to confirm they're willing to serve as chair. So unless everybody else withdraws, are the other members who are present today willing to have their names stand?
I would respectfully withdraw my name. Thank you.
So Councillor Burns has withdrawn his name.
I'll let my name stand.
Councillor Oikel is letting her name stand. Councillor Bell, do you have something to?
Can anyone confirm whether Pam had expressed an interest to having this portfolio?
We cannot confirm that. Okay.
DeLong.
Okay. Okay, so we will be now, we'll take Counselor Hubley off the ballot then. So we will have we have two nominations, Counselor DeLong and Counselor Oikle. So we will continue with the election based on those two names on the ballot. Thank you.
Counselor DeLong. Counselor Oikle. Counselor DeLong. Counselor DeLong. Counselor DeLong. Counselor Oikle. Counselor Oikle. Counselor Oikle. Counselor Oikle. Counselor Oikle.
So I can turn the chair over to Counselor Oikle.
Can we motion?
Oh, and I guess we need a motion to destroy the ballot? No.
No.
No, oh, right, sorry, okay. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the new chair, Counselor Oikle.
Yeah, I'm not going to have it down low. Feels low. Thank you very much. So I'd like to have a motion to destroy the ballots.
We're going to do
Oh.
nomination.
Oh, do we not do destroy the ballots first?
Yep, we can.
And then we have the nomination? Yeah. So moved by Counselor Moore, seconded by Counselor Vino. All those in favor? Motion's carried. We're going to move on to the election of our vice chair. So I believe everybody has pieces of paper in front of them. I do not.
Nominations for Vice Chair are Councillor DeLong, Councillor Burns, Councillor Hubley, Councillor Vino, that is it. So on the ballot is Councillors DeLong, Councillor Burns, Councillor Hubley, and Councillor Vino. Councillor Hubley is not here, so we'll remove her name off the ballot. And does anyone else wish to speak and leave their names on the ballot? Okay. Councillors DeLong, Councillors Burns, and Councillor Vino. So we'll proceed with the next ballot. Mix them up. Councillor DeLong. Councillor DeLong. Councillor Burns. Councillor Burns. Councillor Burns. Councillor Burns. Councillor DeLong, Councillor Burns, Councillor Vino, Councillor DeLong. Okay, what do we got? Councillor Burns has received the nod for the vice.
Congratulations. I'd like to have a motion to destroy the ballots, moved by Mayor McLean-Weil and seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Motion's been carried. Who seconded? Councillor Smith. We'll move on with our agenda. Are there any announcement, acknowledgements, or recognitions? Mayor McLean-Weil.
I do have a proclamation proclaiming International Day for Persons with Disabilities, which is today, December the 3rd. Whereas December 3rd is recognized globally by the United Nations as International Day for Persons with Disabilities, and whereas Canada is a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, and 2 out of 5 Nova Scotians live with disability, And whereas Nova Scotia has proclaimed the Accessibility Act that recognizes accessibility is a human right and set a goal of an accessible province by 2030. And whereas International Day of Persons with Disabilities promotes an understanding of disability issues and the importance of equal access for Nova Scotians with disabilities in all aspects of society. And whereas through public awareness, community partnerships, and municipal accessibility initiatives, this day aims to foster an environment of equal participation of individuals with disabilities within the District of Lunenburg. Therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Elspeth McLean-Weil, on behalf of the District of Lunenburg, do hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2024 as International Day for Persons with Disabilities in the municipality of the District of Lunenburg.
Are there any other announcements? Alex?
I just wanted to take the opportunity to welcome Jem Roberts. Jem is our Regional Anti-Racism and Diversity Coordinator, employed by the host municipality, Chester, but we are 1/5 of the team that works on that project. Can you just give us a little wave, Jem? Thanks. And you'll see more on our IDEA program and our orientation program, but I just wanted to acknowledge your presence in the chambers this morning.
Thank you very much. And perhaps we can all just kind of go around and say who we are, our name and what district you are on behalf of Jem, and then you can probably later on, when we're not in a meeting, introduce yourselves personally to her. You want to start?
Hi, I'm Morgan Reinhardt, Councillor for District 1, which is Petite Riviere and surrounding areas.
Good morning, welcome to the team. My name is Councillor Martin Bell, District 2.
Good morning, welcome Kathy Moore, District 5.
And we already met earlier this morning. My chair isn't high enough. See, I have to go like this.
Good morning, Elspeth McLean-Weil, and I know Jem from other activities in our community.
Good morning, I'm Allison Smith. I look forward to working with you. I represent District 6, which runs all the way from Franey Corner to Farmville.
Good morning. I'm Edgar Burns, District 7, and that's West Northfield, Cookville, Pine Grove, Maitland.
Hi, Jem. Welcome. I represent District 8. That's all the communities surrounding Mahone Bay.
Good morning, Jem. I'm Ben Brooks, and I represent District 9.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Mayor Chastity Vino and Councillor for District 10, which includes all the communities that surround town of Lunenburg, and I also have Big and Little Tancook Island.
And we'll have a quiz later, Jem. I have a statement here for public input. Public input is one of several opportunities for the public to engage with council. Residents are welcome to use the public input portion of the meeting to share their thoughts with the council on municipal topics that are important to them. We ask that all statements be respectful of other members of the public, staff, and council. We ask that you provide your name and civic address. If you ask a question or concern that you would like to have addressed, then we ask that you also provide your email address so that we can contact you regarding your question or comment. The chair will respond to questions that can easily be answered. It is at the discretion of the chair to make this determination. If your question or concern cannot be answered by the chair, then it will be handled as follows. We will email you with an answer to your question or a response to your concern. We may also contact you to get additional information or further clarification on the matter to assist us in responding. We will require that you provide your email address so that we may respond to your issue. We will provide a summary of answers and responses at a future council meeting under Business Arising from the Minutes, and this will form part of the public record. In this way, we will provide the answers or responses to not only the resident that brought them to our attention, but to all the residents of MODL. The residents that ask or resident that asked the question or brought forward the concern may be advised when their matter is being addressed at council. Statements, questions related to personal or operations can be emailed to the Chief Administration Officer, Tom McEwen. There are 15 minutes allotted for public input today, which are shared between the speakers. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak this morning. Do we have anyone here for public input? Seeing none, we'll move on with our agenda. We have a presentation today. It's The Future is Bright, Nova Scotia Community Solar Program. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, changes to the agenda. I was jumping the gun. Are there any changes to the agenda? No, see, I knew there wasn't. And approval of the minutes? Jeepers. It's okay. But there wasn't any changes. Is there can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Mayor McLean-Weil, and seconded by Councillor Moore. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And approval of the minutes. Can I, Deputy Mayor Vino, and seconded by Mayor McLean-Weil. All those in favor? Motion has been carried. Now we can do the presentation. All right. As I said, it's with the Future is Bright Nova Scotia Community Solar Program. And Mila Simon and Ina Lina? So, from Solar Bank Corp. are going to present to us this morning.
Yeah, but is the presentation gonna show on the screen? Okay. So maybe we can just start by introducing ourselves, give that a minute.
You're going to have to speak much closer to the
okay.
microphone.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Ina Lila. I am the Director of Business Development at Solar Bank, who's one of the co-developers on this project, and we're really excited to be here today to share our project details as well as ask for your support.
My name is Mila Simon. I'm a project coordinator at Solar Bank. Thank you so much, Councillors, Madame Mayor, for having us today at your committee meeting. We look forward to sharing the details of this project with you.
Okay, so just a quick table of contents. So I'm going to start off the presentation by introducing the Community Solar Program to you. Then I'm going to go into some of the company information and pass it on to Mila to talk about the sites as well as the community engagement and municipal support piece. So there's two key challenges at the current time in Nova Scotia. So one of them being the very high electricity price, which is around 18.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And the second challenge is the high emission on electricity production. And that's mainly due to the fact that almost 50% of electricity production in Nova Scotia is derived from fossil fuels, with the majority of that being from coal, which is one of the highest emitters. So Nova Scotia has some of the most ambitious goals in all of Canada. They're aiming to reach net zero by 2035. And a key piece to reaching that goal is having 80% of their electricity production come from renewable energy sources by 2030. So one of the programs that they have introduced in March 1st, 2024 is the Community Solar Program, which will help them to reach this goal. So what is the Community Solar Program? Community Solar aims to bring renewable energy to residents and businesses that would like to use renewable energy but don't have the means, the space to install solar themselves. So how does the program work? Well, project owners like the owner of this project, which is AI Renewable, they own, construct, and operate the solar sites. Then the generated solar energy is connected to Nova Scotia Power's grid, and residences and businesses that are interested in using this solar power can subscribe. So they would enter into a subscription agreement with the project owner to offset up to 100% of their energy use through the solar. So the great thing about the program is that Nova Scotia Power is the administrator of the solar energy to the subscribers, so nothing will change for them in terms of billing as well as payments. So the project owner will continue to engage subscribers and manage the project for the full term of the contract, which is 25 years. So there's many community benefits that this project could bring to MODL. So I think the main one that would concern the residents the most is the energy cost savings. So subscribers will receive 2 cents a kilowatt hour credit on their bills for the solar energy that they subscribe to. So what this means, it's about 10 to 15% off their Nova Scotia Power bill, depending on their current rate. And the great thing is that there is no commitment fee, there's no commitment from them, so they could cancel at any time. And there's also no fees to sign up and no ongoing fees as well. All the administrative fees will be paid to Nova Scotia Power by the project owner. And one benefit that we're offering to the local community is priority subscription. So anybody that's in the municipality that's interested in signing up would receive priority subscription if we are awarded a contract, as well as local marginalized communities. So if we're not able to fill the space with the interested parties, then we would expand our reach and go further out of the municipality and to the general public in all of Nova Scotia Power. So the only prerequisite to being a subscriber is that you have to be a Nova Scotia Power customer, and there is no geographical kind of limitations on that. So another community benefit would be local job creation as well as economic growth. So these projects will bring quite a bit of money to the community. They are fairly expensive to build, and even though active construction is only about 2 to 3 months. However, the contract term is 25 years, and there's going to be operations and maintenance for that full term. So we're going to be hiring local not only for the construction, but also for the full 25-year term for the operations and maintenance of the site. Another benefit would be the local green energy produced. It's going to increase grid resiliency and reliability. And the way in which it's going to do that is because solar produces, as we all know, at peak times. So it's going to alleviate some of the stress on the grid, which will reduce power outages. And also when the energy is consumed very close to where it is produced, this is going to reduce line losses as well, contributing to grid resilience. And last but not least, I already touched on a little bit, it's the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So these are the parties that are participating in this project and helping to bring this project from now, which is the very early stages, all the way to commercial operation. So the owner will be AI Renewable. So AI Renewable is a Canadian limited partnership. It's all Canadian investors, and they focus on investing in clean energy infrastructure. The company that's actually applying is just a numbered company, a Nova Scotia SPV, and that's owned 100% by the investor, that's AI Renewable. So down below we have SolarBank and Trimac Engineering. So SolarBank is the company that myself and Mila work for. We're going to be the co-developers on this project along with Trimac Engineering. That's our local partner. It's an engineering firm based out of Sydney, Nova Scotia. They've been around for over 10 years, and it's a family-owned firm. And a little bit more background about SolarBank. We have over 12 years of experience in the solar industry. We have a lot of sites in Ontario. We have about 71 sites that we own in Ontario, various rooftops and ground mounts. We also have operations in New York, mostly in Rochester, also participating in the community solar program there. That's been a long-standing success for about 8 years now, I believe. So this slide just kind of shows our process. So our company is fully vertically integrated, and what that means is that we take care of the whole process all the way from origination, not only to commercial operation of the site, but also the ongoing operations for the full 25-year term. So SolarBank and Trimac are going to be here for the long term, for the full term of this project. So in the origination stage, this is where we take care of the policy analysis, financial analysis to make sure that the project is feasible before we proceed. And we also get site control, so whether that's a purchase or a lease agreement. In this case, for the site that we're here to talk about today, it is a lease agreement. One thing that I do want to point out is we are in the very early stages of this project, so I would say we're somewhere between the origination and the development. We already do have site control and we're starting some of the pre-development work, but we haven't yet applied to the province for a contract. So in the development stage, we do a lot of feasibility studies, a lot of preliminary feasibility studies. So this is where we take a look at grid interconnection. So for this site, we have applied for preliminary application to Nova Scotia Power to see what the grid capability is and what those connection costs may look like. We've also engaged the municipality to ask about the regulatory permitting. We have done some environmental studies with the province, some preliminary environmental with the province, and we're going to be applying to the community solar program as soon as we have all the rules and requirements complete for that. So we also help our customers with financing, whether that be equity, ITC, debt financing, or construction financing. And a lot of our work really happens in the delivery phase. So the delivery phase would be after a contract is awarded. Once a contract is awarded, we would immediately apply to the province for the DSI, sorry, not the province, to NSPI for the DSIS. So that's the Detailed Interconnection Study, which will let us know exactly what kind of upgrades, what infrastructure upgrades are needed to connect this project to the grid. We would also start the detailed engineering. So that's things like geotechnical, civil engineering, mechanical, et cetera, and anything that's needed for the site, and working very closely with the municipality to look at the permitting and other environmental factors. So those engineering studies will dictate the kind of equipment that we get. So that brings us to the next stage, which is procurement. SolarBank will be doing all the procurement. We only use Tier 1 suppliers. We are supplier agnostic, so we will use any Tier 1 suppliers as long as the equipment quality and availability is there and it meets, of course, the site requirements. Then moving on to the construction phase. So as I mentioned, we are going to be hiring local for the construction. SolarBank is just going to be overseeing the subcontractors on site. So we're going to be doing the project management to make sure that we deliver the project on time and on budget, but we are hiring local construction teams. Then we do the commissioning with Nova Scotia Power, and we reach commercial operation. So as I mentioned, we're here for the long term, so our work doesn't end at commercial operation. Then there's ongoing operations and maintenance, which is done multiple times a year, as well as on an as-needed basis. We're also going to be helping with subscriber management, as well as asset management and decommissioning whenever that time comes at the end of the 25-year term.
Thanks, Ina. So I would like to talk about this specific site in more detail. So what you have on the screen is our preliminary site plan put together by our engineers. I won't go too much into detail, but some of the key factors here are that it is on Krause Settlement Road near the Italy Cross community. Where my mouse is the existing road and an existing distribution line, a Nova Scotia Power distribution line. These lines here that you see are the actual solar array, which keep appropriate setbacks from wetlands and the property boundary. The green boundary here is the property boundary, so it is two parcels owned by the same landlord, and we have a lease agreement for both pins. And here what you see is the access road and the proposed interconnection point to the Nova Scotia Power grid. So as Ina mentioned, we would be doing detailed system interconnection studies once contract is awarded and once we move on into the detailed engineering phase. So The GPS coordinates and the PIDs are listed there, and the zoning is unzoned. And this solar site is sized currently at 2.4 megawatts AC. So as we get further in the development process, that size might go down depending on the interconnection studies that come back. But for example, the image here is a community solar project done by SolarBank in New York for Honeywell, I believe. Honeywell was our customer for this project, and this is sized between 5 to 7 megawatts AC, so around double the size. And you can see it there going against the lay of the land on a slight hill, surrounded by trees for visual screening, and ideally servicing this community of subscribers here who would, in theory, be net zero households. So about our process for developing our proposal to the Nova Scotia Community Program, we're currently in the phase of assembling our application package. So we've done the preliminary site assessments and preliminary design of the site, which you saw is the site plan, as well as securing access to the site. And we're currently focusing on community, First Nations engagement, and then of course the municipal support and municipal engagement. So the program does operate on a first-come, first-served basis. So we are looking to submit our application in the next couple of months. And then after we've submitted, we would wait 45 business days for Nova Scotia Power Program to provide us either notification that we've received a contract, or if they have any questions, they would get back to us. And then once contract is granted, we would begin the detailed work, such as the detailed interconnection studies, detailed engineering, engineering for procurement, etc. And then finally, we would enter into the engineering, procurement, and construction portion as we wrap up and begin the construction phase. And I would like to note that we always have a decommissioning plan in place. So after the end of the 25-year contract, whether the province decides to extend the contract or not, only time will tell. But we always have a decommissioning plan ready to restore the site as much as possible to its original state after the 25-year contract is completed. So as mentioned, community engagement and municipal support are key factors of our application, and some other factors are preliminary feasibility studies, construction plans, financing plans, etc., and a subscription plan, of course. So I want to talk a little bit more about the community engagement plan. So this is an item that I am working firsthand on, and this is typically what we do for our community engagement. So we host typically 2 meetings, one online and one in person. So we did have our first in-person meeting last night in the fire hall, and it was attended by around 20 community members. There was lots of great questions, but I would say it was positively received. We had some people who were very interested in the project sign up to be on our warm list for subscribers, which is always great, and to let us know that they would love to see this project come to their community. So we also have a project website where we post all the details of the program and the project and the site, as well as the site plan, and we keep this up to date. If there are any updates to the site plan, we do post them here. So this is shared on our social media, as well as we typically send mail letters. So we weren't able to achieve that for this meeting because of the Canada Post strike. However, once the strike is over, we will be hosting an additional public meeting to notify residents with mail as well. We typically send 100 mailers to the nearest residences to the site, as well as also use other forms of community engagement as we did for the meeting yesterday. So we also engage with the municipality staff. We also engage with local media, so it was broadcasted on 2 channels, notification of the public meeting, and we also engage with the local district councillor. So a little bit more about our subscription plan. So as Ina mentioned, it is always our practice to offer priority subscription to the communities immediately adjacent to the solar site. So if we are awarded a contract, we would work closely with Councillor Reinhardt to develop a plan that ensures that those interested that are closest to the site would be offered priority subscription. And we would also work with any local marginalized communities and First Nations communities, of course, with the collaboration of the municipality, as you know best what is the needs of the community. And then once all this capacity is filled up, if there is existing capacity for our solar, then we would expand the search to fill up the rest of the subscription. So a next step for us would be asking for your municipal support letter. So I did share a template of this with the municipality, and this would be included in our proposal package to the program to show the municipality's outlook on solar, whether you're supportive and you would like to support this project. So thank you so much for listening, councillors, Madame Mayor. We really appreciate it, and we're happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Councillor DeLong?
Thanks very much for your presentation. I attended the meeting last night as well, so I feel fairly well briefed on this at this point. My biggest question is, does this compete with our Solar Garden application through area?
So the community solar program, there's 100 megawatts of procurement available, and that's split up into two buckets. So there's 180 megawatt kind of for the general public or for-profit organizations, and there's 20 megawatts that's specifically allocated for nonprofits, such as a municipality. So I believe we are applying under the two different buckets. So you have the 20 megawatts that's allocated, and we're applying into the 80 megawatts. And currently, as of right now, there's only been one project that's awarded under the 20 megawatts, which is under a 1 megawatt project. So there's ample capacity available in that 20 megawatt. So I don't believe we're directly competing, even though we're applying to the same program. It's under kind of different routes.
In the same geographic area, that doesn't affect it either?
No, no, that doesn't matter.
All right, that's really good to hear. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for your question.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I guess just to follow up, you had said last night that grid capacity was a question that you had to check in with Nova Scotia Power about. So I assume that we'd be operating in the same area and would have the same grid constraints. So what did you learn about how much availability there is for these kinds of projects locally?
So there is currently a capacity map that's available online, and I believe it was around 2.5 megawatts that was available. However, just because we're in the same area doesn't necessarily mean that we're on the same feeder. So it may be the same, there's different feeders, multiple feeders in the same area. So I'm not sure what feeder you are part of, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we would be on the same feeder. Where would your project be located?
It's located in Why Not Settlement. So our project has already had the assessment done by Nova Scotia Power for grid connectivity.
Oh, okay. So that's great. So we're after you. So if you've already had that assessment done, then you've already had that capacity allocated to you. So if we apply after your project, either we would take whatever remaining capacity is available, or we're probably on a different feeder. So if you applied first, then again, we're not competing in any way because that capacity has already been allocated to you once you apply.
Are there any other questions for our guests? Mayor McLean-Weil?
And that you may not be able to do this, but can you speak to the capital value of the project?
Yes, roughly I can. Of course, we're not at the EPC stage yet, so we haven't procured the equipment or the contractors, but typically it would be around $2 to $2.50 per watt. So for example, for a 2 megawatt system, it would be, sorry, that's per watt DC. So I believe this project would be close to around 20 million, I want to say ballpark.
Follow up?
If I may, this is unrelated to the capital question, but the number of households that you've identified surrounding the project. Do you know approximately?
Sorry, Madame Mayor, is your question how many households would this project be able to serve nearby?
No, I think you spoke to that last night about the 315 or 350 projects, but just I'm thinking about the current location that you've identified. How many households are immediately surrounding that? Do you know that?
Sorry, so immediately surrounding, maybe we can go back to the site plan. There's only about 7 households immediately surrounding the project. But if you're referring to the community engagement plan, we're going to be reaching out to many more households than that. So they don't have to be immediately near the project. It's going to be kind of on the same street, or in the vicinity. So yeah, there's about eight structures that are immediately surrounding the project.
Just interested in the density of households, of residents that would be adjacent to the project, but
Yeah,
Thank
yeah, so
you.
it's about 8.
thank you.
Thanks for your question.
A follow-up question, Councillor DeLong?
Class 7 soil, that means this is non-agricultural land. It's been previously cleared for forestry, is it?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good.
I do also have a question.
Yes.
So my question is regarding, because of the present postal strike, how do you plan to engage with the community for subscribers or to let them know about your upcoming online communication?
So for the online meeting, we are actually waiting until the strike is over. So we're able to notify those residences nearby by sending mail. For the initial meeting, we reached out to 2 radio stations. So we had an announcement on 2 radio stations for about a week prior to the meeting up until.
Just actually, they were only able to actually, it was just, I believe Friday it went live, Thursday or Friday, and then it played throughout the day all up until Monday, 5:30 p.m. on 2 radio stations that cover, I believe, 3 counties in this area. Yeah.
We also reached out to the municipality. Thank you so much for posting it on your Facebook page. So I think a lot of people that showed up last night had heard from Facebook. So once the strike is over, we do plan to do an online meeting as well. And for that, we're going to be sending out mailers. So we are going to wait for the strike to finish. We did think of sending out FedEx or couriering the notifications, but we did hear that in rural communities, it's still Canada Post that takes the parcel the last few kilometers, so we didn't want to take that chance.
Thank you. Are there any, Councillor Smith?
Could you just say a little bit about the profit that's expected and who your investors are?
So the investors are all Canadian independent investors. It's individual investors that would like to get tax benefits associated with green energy. The profit, I can't speak to the profit exactly, but it is very conservative. I'm sure that you know infrastructure projects have very conservative returns. It's not even in the double digits. It's in the high single-digit returns. Yes, so I think a big part of even making the project work is the federal ITC. I don't believe the financial feasibility would be there without the federal ITC. Of course, we have to make sure that we meet those prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements to be able to get that. Yeah, so it's a pretty conservative return.
But just to follow up, so that tax credit is basically the major incentive for investors in this project?
Yeah, it is. It's a big piece of why they're only looking for such a small return, because they get the tax benefit as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mayor?
Can you speak to, is there a requirement within the contract for set aside of funds for the cleanup? Should there be a problem with the company and there's no funds left, that there is money set aside for cleanup and removal of the project at the end of its life? Can you speak to that?
Of course, yeah, that's a really good question. So that's actually our standard practice. Starting in year 5, we put away funds for decommissioning all the way up until year 25. So we can work with the municipality depending if you want like a locked account or interest. Some municipalities do a decommissioning bond as well. So we will discuss with the municipality to see what your preference is, but that is definitely something that we do in various forums.
Councillor Brooks?
Can you talk a little bit about the panel degradation efficiency over a 25-year period of time?
So the panels are actually under warranty for a 30-year term. The degradation's about 0.35% a year. So at the end of the 25-year terms, of course, they are going to be degraded, but they're still going to be usable. So typically, life of panels in our industry is about 35 years before they would probably need replacement because they're degraded too much and it's not worth to have them.
But at year 25, do you have some numbers, some percentages of that degradation? I've got some in my head. I'm curious what numbers you use when you talk about the efficiency of the panels degrading over time.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get back to you on that question, but it is 0.35% a year. So whatever that would be in 25 years, I can't remember off the top of my head. And the manufacturer also has some guarantees on that at the end of, example, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, et cetera. So the efficiency will definitely be lost over time, but in 25 years, they would still be very much usable. So I can get back to you on the exact number to that question.
Councillor DeLong?
Can you speak a bit more to the benefits to the municipalities, such as will this be commercial property tax? What else can we expect?
So on top of everything that I mentioned, so the reduction to GHG emissions, the investment into the municipality, and local job creation, there is also the property tax. I'm not sure what the assessed value is going to be, so we do work with municipalities. We do pay property tax on the properties that we have in the U.S. under the Community Solar Program. So again, we're going to be working with the municipality, and whatever that property tax is, we're going to be paying that as well.
Are there any further questions? Seeing. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for your time. We're really happy to be here, and beautiful facilities you have. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There is no correspondence and no recommendations from council for us to discuss. We'll move on to our staff reports. We have Elena, who is our Director of Finance, and she's going to go over our Operation Valiance report second quarter. And also, are you going to be doing the capital status one as well? All right. This is just for information. There are no motions regarding these two discussions that we'll be having.
So if it pleases the committee, I'll share my screen when we start the operating variance report. So I do have hopefully connected here, and it can come up for you. So for some councillors who are new to going over our finances, I need to duplicate my screen. Just a second. Windows P. Yes, yeah. There we go. For your information, so this is your second quarter variance report. So that's from, April 1st to September 30th. So that brings you to the end of September. And so what we do is our directors and managers are responsible for their departments. We're always looking at our budgets, trying to keep within budget. The budget is a plan, so sometimes things change. So what we have here is we have a description of what type of account that you're looking at. There are some comments on the variance. So we actually look at the columns to the right. So you're looking at your actual spent to date, that would be to September 30th, the annual budget against that section of accounts, and the forecast. Then we show you a percentage of your variance against the budget from the forecast to the budget and the amount. So like I said, we all the directors and managers do look after their own budgets and try to see where we're going to be by year end to make sure that what we've done is in line with what we've budgeted. So if it pleases the committee, since this is kind of the first one for many councillors, I thought I would pretty much go line by line, kind of help you out with that. So if it's too fast, too slow, let me know. And if you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them. So the first one is the tax revenue. So that encompasses all the tax revenues that we collect as a municipality. And we are actually looking at a small, tiny variance of our total budget of $32.4 million. The forecast is just a little bit under that by 11,000. That actually has to do with the outstanding appeals. So people can appeal their tax assessments. This year we had 480 properties that appealed them, or about $185 million worth of assessment that was appealed. And there's still 40 of those properties outstanding, which is about 15 million. So I take a percentage and make a determination how much those appeals might be based on the success rate of the prior appeals. So that's what brings us there. So it's less than 0%, like 0.001 or something. It's not a big percentage of a differential, but there is a slight differential there. So business property, which is accounts that we get from certain kinds of businesses, like Alliant will give us taxes in lieu of property taxes for, a payment in lieu of property taxes for connections on their wire grid. And also our HST offset, which is an amount we get for Nova Scotia Power substations based on capital budgets. It's allocated on a formula to all municipalities in the province. So we got a little bit more from Alliant, a little bit more for the HST offset. So of the 168.6 budget, we're forecasting 193.4. So it gives us a $24,000 variance.
Elena?
Yes.
Can you explain the difference between actual budget and forecast?
So the actual is what we've actually received to date. So if there's revenues that we haven't received yet, if you look down a couple lines, you see grants in lieu of taxes, which is the money that the province pays us in lieu of property taxes. We haven't received that money yet. There's a zero there in the actual, but we do have a $268,000 budget. So we are forecasting that we are going to get those monies, so there's a 0% variance in that.
I just wanted to clarify the difference between actual budget and forecast.
Yeah. I mean, the total revenue budget, if you look at it, like we're forecasting about $620,000 in a variance, which is more revenue collected than what we expect to get. But most of that is in deed transfer tax. We know that we have, to September 30th, we had received $1.4 million in deed transfer tax, but we have $1.8 million by October 31st. So I forecasted out another $600,000 based on just the trends that we see over the past years of what we might collect, trying to be conservative, which is how we do budget our revenues. We don't want to be, we certainly want to be conservative in those estimates. So really, your entire revenue budget has a $620,000 variance, and most of it is deed transfer tax. So there's a little change in recreation services, active community funds revenue. We're expecting a little bit less than our $25,000 budget, but that has to do with a vacant position in there, and you'll see that in the expense side that the Recreation Department has forecasted that they haven't filled that position yet, so therefore there's going to be budget savings related to it. There's a little bit more that we're expecting in ball field rentals, zoning confirmations, pro kids, and revenue under our other revenue section of 13th at 7. We actually received a little bit more in farm acreage grants, which is $1,900. We got some provincial grants for planning, recreation, and tourism students of $8,600 more than budgeted, which brings us to the $620,000 total revenue variance. If that's good, I'll move on to expenditures.
Are there any questions regarding revenue at this time? Seeing them, go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to move to the next page here. And I should have started by that, we don't comment on variances under $1,000, just for your information. Where your budgets are almost 40 million, it's not material, so, but certainly we can answer any questions that you have if you think something doesn't look right to you. So on our legal, if we move to the expense side, we are forecasting a little bit more in our legal and advisory services, but that has to do with a project design service for potential high-density housing project that we didn't know about in the budget, but we have contracted out to do a design services for that, so that gives us a variance of about 18.5. In our administration, building supplies, advertising, and data processing, we have a little bit of a reduction for propane and generator cost here at this municipal services building of $4,700. There is a reduction of $10,250 in our forecast for sponsorship ad, elite athlete, and pro fund grants based on the applications we've received to date and what we expect to receive. The elections themselves, you will get a full report on the election costs. Right now, we are expecting about a $20,000 expenditure variance, which is a savings due to reduced wages and mileage. But I know that your clerk will have a more detailed report for you later. In the protective inspection services, there was a little bit increase estimated for vehicle insurance and regional building services technical cost at just $1,300. Municipal road maintenance. One of the other things that we do is we budget conservatively for costs, which means we kind of look at the worst case scenario. So the municipal road maintenance, which is got to do with summer maintenance on the roads, dust suppression, things like that, we're looking at about a $56,000 expenditure savings. Planning and zoning, there's some increase for some computer costs of $2,800. Economic development, schools, our CES building, and tourism is about a $4,500 savings based on the actual VIC costs that we had, which we had a remote kiosk that moved from place to place. So there's about $4,500 estimated savings there. Into the recreation, staffing, facilities, and programming, there's about $104,000 forecast savings there. A lot of it has to do with the active living coordinator vacancy, as I mentioned earlier, and some programming associated with that, as well as some summer programming and facility summer maintenance costs. The area rates are kind of reported as ins and outs because that's money that we collect for those specific areas, and the costs associated with them. So there's some differentials within fire protection, but it's essentially in and out. Sewage collection, disposal, there's a little bit more in cost than what we expected, and a little bit more in revenue than what we expected, as well as the private road maintenance. So that kind of brings us into our variance for our total municipal unit, which is $722,790. So we were looking for a $27,000 budgeted surplus. We're forecasting $749,000, so that's about a 1.68% variance on our total budget.
So if we were projecting the 27, is that what we were saying?
We budgeted $27,000.
Okay. So what was the main thing that gave us all that extra surplus?
$600,000 in deed transfer tax.
The deed transfer tax. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
This isn't related to the numbers, it's more the dating of the report. So this is to the end of September. Would typically this be presented at the 1st of November?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
Because
You
we're
would-
well into
December?
the third, yeah.
You're into the third quarter, that's correct, and you would normally get it at your November Finance Committee meeting, but with the election and the timing, we didn't have a Finance Committee meeting, so we're bringing it into you now. But that is correct. Usually, we have a month after the month end, and then you would get that information.
Does anyone else have any other questions at this time? Okay, Go ahead, Elena.
Okay, thank you. So we can move on to capital, since that's the end of the operating.
Do we want to take a break for 10 minutes? Let's take a break for 10 minutes, just because of all these numbers, so that we can get some new numbers in our head. All right, so we'll come back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay. We're going to start, and Elena is going to give us the capital status and CCBF investment report the second quarter. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for this report, it's slightly different. So this is your capital budget status and our Canada Community Building Fund report. So the Canada Community Building Fund is the old gas tax where the federal government, or through the provincial government, from the federal government, gives us funds every year to put on qualifying projects like trails and active transportation and wastewater or solid waste or cleaner air, cleaner water, lower greenhouse gases, essentially, is the mantra for that, as well as paving projects. So what we do here is we kind of give you all the capital projects that have been approved for the year, and we give you the original project description that was approved by council, and then the director's comment on the status of that project. So the columns to the right would be the approved budget for the current year, the actual cost to September of 2024, September 30th, again, a variance and a forecast. So under our climate change action plan, we have 5 projects there, all of which are completing or moving forward kind of as expected. So we have awarded the assessment for energy upgrades at the CES building. The solar panels on the Conquerall Bank wastewater treatment plant were 95% complete. I think they've got the final inspections to do, but it is generating power. Our own community solar garden, which was the site selection and design project. We are working with AREA, as I think we commented earlier in this meeting, on the application for the power purchase agreement, which will be submitted. Our expectation, our agreement will be submitted in January of 2025. The fleet chargers in the fleet parking lot. It's interesting because those are actually working now, I think. They were, at the time when we filled this out, they were 55% complete, but I think they're actually charged and working now, so that's great news. And then we have a RFP for a public transit plan in Osprey Village that actually was a little bit of a carryover from last year, just about $4,000. So all of those projects are moving forward as expected. If we move into our Osprey Village Growth Center, which is a strategic priority in this capital budget, there was a project to facilitate deliveries in Osprey Village, which was a third-party kind of facilitation. We were waiting on legal for that. There has been an RFP out for the enhancement plan, which was a plan to inform where beautification should occur here in Osprey Village. So the consultant's been selected and they're working on that. For the regional building services, excuse me.
Mayor McLean, while you have a question.
Can you explain the third-party contribution? I don't understand what all that is.
Okay, so that was, I can certainly ask Mr. Waters to come up, but it was a plan to facilitate deliveries to certain areas here in Osprey Village, and third-party contributions would be looking for private contributions from another party. So it wouldn't be us footing the entire bill. That's my understanding.
Yeah, and that particular one, what we had discussed last year, that is that the municipality would purchase the land and allow a third party to put a back entrance driveway for the development. So our portion of that is the purchase of the land. The third party, which would be the operators, would be building the driveway access and maintaining it.
Do you want to explain where this would be located, please, for the new counselor? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. So if it pleases the committee, we'll move on. So we had a project for an e-permitting platform, which was to replace the software we currently have for facilitating regional building services. So we do know we have all the agreements signed, and so the staff are working with the partners to prepare an RFP for that. So the Osprey Village Water Tower, which is year one of a three-phase project, we do have some funding for that. We were working on that with the Public Service Commission in the town of Bridgewater. So it's just a slow process as far as I know. And we're working on site selection and getting that looked after. So I'm looking at negotiating the land acquisition. The Cookville plant expansion, which is next door to us here, we're in year one of 3 of that project. So we just approved the 24.5, or council approved the 24.5 million for construction and engineering at your October 8th council meeting. So we're moving forward with that project. The Cookville I&I investigation, that was a budgeted carryover. There was a draft report that we've received, and we'll be looking to bring a full report to council, or options to council later on. The Nathan Cirillo Pump Station backup power, council did award the alternative procurement to L&B Electric at your October 8th meeting. And they're still working on some warranty repairs for this building here in the HVAC system. So we're about 90% there with that. Okay. The tax bill portal project is waiting on a contract with the software vendor. We've been going back and forth on legal with that, but we are expecting that portal where our taxpayers could log in and see their tax bills and any receipts and things like that are associated to their tax account. We're just waiting on the legal because we're hoping to have that implemented in this winter. We are at the final year of our internet connectivity strategy. So some of that work is completed. We were trying to get the Maliga Lake section of Lunenburg County connected. The J-Class roads, the Nova Scotia Public Works Paving Partnership. So that is a partnership to pave non-owned municipal J-Class roads. We did carry over the Point Road from 23-24. We had a request for another 3 kilometers. The Point Road is complete. It is showing a credit, actually cost in that account, and that was because we had partnered in paving the South Side Road probably 3 years ago or more, and we finally got the invoice, and the invoice was a little bit less than what we had actually budgeted for at the time, and I booked it because we knew the work was complete. So we booked the work when it's complete based on the agreement cost, and then Department of Public Works sends us an invoice, which could be many years coming, but we finally got all the old ones cleaned up, so that was lovely. The Center School ESIA assessments, that the ESA Phase 2 has been awarded, and hazmat and screening survey awarded to Strum Consulting, so we're working with them on that. The green compost carts, we do an annual purchase through the MGSB, and those are distributed to residents. So new carts are distributed to new construction, and replacement carts are distributed as required. Moving on to the park section. So the RFP was awarded for the wayfinding, which is our directional and visual signage throughout MODL to the various MODL assets. And it's my understanding that the report says they should be installed by the end of December 2025, which that's kind of a typo. So it's actually January of 2025 or maybe December of 2024, but at the latest January, we think. So we have a placeholder for accessibility, our park asset accessibility audit and implementation. And some of that placeholder has actually been used down below in our park bench picnic tables and bollards installations. So those have actually are working, moving along, like moving those installations for picnic tables and entrance bollards and things like that, and benches. As well, we've got a design awarded for Mush Mush Washroom. And so there should be a tender document coming to council soon for that.
We do have a question by Deputy Mayor Vino.
Thank you. Can you just go back to the wayfinding part? Sorry, my hand was up. The January 2025 deadline, does that include the completion of the whole wayfinding project, or is that just another section being done? Because it was broken down.
This is a
with different
phase.
tender-
I think it's this phase. You can correct if I'm correct. Our Recreation Director, Trudy Payne, can explain that.
Yes, it was a phased approach, and this would be the completion of the park gates and the park beacons in our parks. We'll probably likely be discussing during our next capital if council wants to move forward with wayfinding in other areas and what that might look like.
Councillor Smith?
Just looking at the accessibility audit and implementation, it looks like we'll be coming in under budget. And what I had heard at another time, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Maybe I shouldn't. At what point will we be looking at developing new parks?
That's a direction of council, and I haven't been given any direction of council to develop a new park.
Okay,
so that would be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That question wasn't quite how I wanted to put it, but that's yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll move on to the next page, if that's okay. So we move on to the Indian Falls Stairs design and installation. That installation is complete. The Mark Playground equipment replacement over by the ball fields, that's complete. The Oakland Conservation Area improvements, that's complete. I don't think all the costs are in there. Oh, no, most of the costs are in there because we're forecasting 15,000 and we've got 13,400. So moving on to other infrastructure. The municipality makes an annual contribution to its trail groups. It uses the Canada Community Building Fund money for that, which is $584 per kilometer, excuse me. So that gets allocated to those trail groups to help them with the capital repairs on the trails. So the municipality allocates those funds out. Art in the Trail, we haven't developed an RFP, but we will need probably to carry this one over for spring and summer of 2025. The repairs and upgrades to the Arthur Young Trail are completed, and as are the existing trail upgrades to the Mark. The two categories on the bottom there, the land purchases, those are based on reserves availability and based on when opportunities arise. So if we always leave some money in the budget so that if an opportunity comes up to buy a piece of land for conservation or for open space, that staff can bring it to council for consideration. So we usually just leave a placeholder in there for that. So Saw Pit Park, we know that that project's 100% complete. The Pine Grove Park, we added this one because in July of 2024, Municipal Council asked us to rectify some safety concerns that were in the park so it could be reopened for public use. So staff went ahead and did that. Their paved shoulders in Martins River, that was another collaboration with Nova Scotia Public Works. and part of one of the council's strategic priorities to pave shoulders when roads are brought down to the bare ground and repaved. So that project's complete. Some para-sport equipment, wheelchairs and storage trailer. We've completed that. We've bought 6 wheelchairs and a storage trailer. We had a grant for it, so it was a really great thing to have for us to be able to use that and offer that program to our residents. We have an e-bike facility feasibility study and implementation. The funding is received. We do have to issue an RFP to purchase the bikes. And our AT plan, to upgrade that plan, that has been done. And that was actually from last year, and there's a little bit of carryover, $1,800 that we had to capitalize, so we're showing that to you. Moving on to wastewater treatment projects. The annual large pump rebuilding replacement program. So this is a program that our engineering department has identified. So they've got every year looking at replacing those pumps and adding it into the capital budget. So this year's pumps have been done. The Conquerall Bank I&I study. It was kind of wet weather in the fall, so there's some repairs that had to be done. We've issued an RFP. I think we talked to council that there were no bids, so they're going to approve, and council approved an award of a quote under alternate procurement at the November 26, 24 meeting. The Conquerall Bank caustic soda system improvements, that tender got canceled at the October 8th meeting as it was over budget. The New Germany I&I mitigation, that's about 95% complete. So there's some deficiencies to be finished. And it's not going to come in because of most of the cost ended up in the prior fiscal. We had carried over more than we needed to, so that's going to come in around 100. And the portable backup for power for pump stations, council awarded that procurement to L&B Electric at the October 8th meeting. So that's been, we're working on purchasing that. So of the $11.5 million budget for this year, at the end of September, we had spent $1.592 million. We do expect it to spend about $10.1 million of that total project funds by the end of the fiscal.
Are there any questions regarding this report? No, thank you very much, Elena, for that. Appreciate it. We're going to move on to our administration department, to 11.2.1 Municipal Growth, Capital Growth Program. And Alex, will you be leading us with that?
I won't, but I'd be happy to introduce Amy Wombold, who is our grant coordinator. It's a half-time position for the municipality. And I always love an opportunity to talk up Amy. She is a fantastic strategic mind who is very good at securing funding for us. So we have a new funding opportunity here. She's going to give a quick introduction to how we approach granting at the municipality and then speak about this particular opportunity.
Hello, happy to be before you this morning. So as Alex mentioned, we do have a bit of strategy about how the municipality approaches the granting process, and it actually starts with council. So council sets strategic priorities, and they also pass the annual budget, and they also pass a 5-year financial strategy. So we use kind of the combination of those documents to look at what council is trying to accomplish, especially in terms of capital projects. And then as grant programs are released, we look at those programs and say, well, what matches up with what council is trying to achieve? Generally, our favorite approach is to look at the capital budget because it's very clear with what projects have been passed. The capital budget is very specific over a 12-month fiscal period, and it makes it very easy when we look at projects as they're very tangible. It's very clear, yes, this is a good fit, and we apply the grant programs specifically for those projects. If as many grant programs are coming out now, they tend to say, we'll we'll consider applications for projects that may happen this fiscal year, but perhaps upwards to 2 or 3 fiscal years down the road, in which case that's when we look at our 5-year capital plan and bring to council opportunities and options and have council agree on what program they would prefer that we advance a certain application for. Sometimes applications are very clear that we may only have one program or project that fits, that council has already approved, as would be in the case with the grant application before you this morning. Other times it can be strategic as to which ones make sense, and it depends on the complexity of the issue or the level of political decision-making that may be required with whether or not staff come to council for their advice and support and direction. For this program specifically, as many programs that are administered through the province, a council resolution is required to show support for the project. So of course the project is already supported in the budget specifically, but the purpose is to make sure that council has agreed that with the strategy of using the provincial funds specifically for the project that staff are recommending. For this one, as I've mentioned, we only have one project that fits the criteria for the grant, and it happens to be a project we're still seeking funding for. So the fit is very, very close. The program is called the Growth and Renewal for Infrastructure Development. It's a program that is new. We've never applied for. It's newly released from the province of Nova Scotia. And it's specifically looking to help support municipalities in funding projects within 3 categories: water, wastewater, climate change, and accessibility. The program is very clear. They are looking for shovel-ready projects, so projects that have already completed the design stage and are ready for the construction phase. And it must be a project that is going to be wholly complete by 2026. Now, or that the portion of money that the province is giving you can be wholly spent by 2026. So I think as Elena mentioned in her financial reports, we did award a tender for the Cookville wastewater treatment plant expansion in October. That project is totaling about $24.5 million. Throughout the design phase, over the last couple of years, we've seen that project pot of money, the cost expected to cover that project grow significantly based on, the detailed designs and economic conditions. So our funding targets, we have not been able to meet at least a minimum of 50% funding targets as those costs have continued to expand. This program offers an excellent opportunity for us to get to the 50% funding target, which is generally what staff would try to achieve for a capital project of this nature. So to achieve the 50% funding, we'd be looking at an application of about $1.5 million from the province, and that is within the funding pot that they have available to supply across the province. So staff have come with a memo explaining the projects, explaining the funding, and asking that council support with the motion supplied the project and our use of that grant program, and we will make application by the December 13th deadline. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? No? I'd like to ask Councillor Bell if he could bring forth that motion.
To the Chair and members of the Finance Committee, I move that the Finance Committee recommend to Council that Municipal Council endorse the Cookville Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrades Phase 3 project as the funding priority for the Growth and Renewal for Infrastructure Development Program, known as GRID. I so move.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Burns. Any questions on the motion? Or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's been carried. Thank you very much. We have no added items, but we do have an in-camera item, so we're going to proceed with going to in-camera. Oh, 5-minute break to get it ready? Yep, we'll have a 5-minute break to get it ready. Okay, thank you.